I exposed my cheating husband and his mom's scheme at Christmas dinner. It's my revenge story. If you asked me last spring what my marriage looked like, I would have pointed at the Saturday mornings. Ethan in a faded college tee flipping pancakes, me barefoot with coffee, the radio low, Margaret, his mother, texting the family thread photos of hydrangeas and passive-aggressive scripture. 9 years together, 5 married, and I honestly thought we'd somehow cracked the code. Steady, affectionate, boring in the sweetest way. Then the hummingbird lie happened. It was June, and our back porch feeder had gone empty. Ethan was working late at Carter & Sons, Reed. Richard's Kingdom, Ethan's polite inheritance. I FaceTimed him to show him the sad, birdless hangar. He answered in a whisper. Hey, sophomore. Can't talk. Client call. Since when do clients chirp? I asked, because in the background I heard this bright metallic clatter and laughter, like a bar spoon hitting glass. He smiled fixed. We put a hummingbird video on in the conference room. Stress relief. In the conference room? With cocktails? Mocktails, he said, and ended the call so fast my phone showed my own stunned face. The signs stacked themselves after that. New cologne so sharp it made our hallway smell like a magazine insert. A wardrobe pivot from CPA casual to sharp enough to file taxes on. Phone face down always. A new fitness kick with a trainer who only had late-night availability and, apparently, no last name. Everyone's doing it, he said, lacing pristine sneakers at 10:30 p.m. The market's volatile. You fight stress with sweat. He kissed my forehead like I was a good luck coin and jogged out. Margaret noticed the changes, too, just differently. Over brunch, she speared a strawberry like it had wronged her and said, Isn't Ethan looking so polished? A man should always present himself as if photographed. By whom? I asked. She blinked. By life, dear. She has never liked me. I'm spirited, which in Margaret speak is adjacent to untidy. When Ethan proposed at the park, she hugged me and whispered, Love is work, the same way someone might say, the basement floods. The first outright oddity showed up on a Tuesday. An Uber receipt to our shared email for a ride from a boutique hotel across town to a florist near the park where he'd proposed. The note said, recurring. I texted him a screenshot. He replied, client appreciation. You know how it is. Did I? Because my clients, I do interior staging, usually appreciated invoices and fresh eucalyptus, not roses ferried anonymously. 2 days later, a dry cleaning tag in his blazer pocket for a silk shirt I didn't recognize, size small. The clerk had written C on the claim slip with a tiny heart. I told myself it was a brand. Celine, maybe. Chiffon. Self-delusion with a designer label. I started cataloging, quietly. Late returns, 12/14, 102, 237. Hair trim schedules suddenly every other week. A new phone passcode he entered with his body turned like he was shielding a state secret. He brought home a gym duffel that smelled like citrus and unfamiliar perfume. Shared towels, he shrugged. Gross, right? I swallowed the urge to ask which towel came with lipstick. Then the hummingbird lie circled back, nastier. I went to refill the feeder and found, tucked behind our cedar planter, a crumpled cocktail napkin from a rooftop bar we both used to love. Scrawled on it, tonight? See. A phone number. A little doodle of a hummingbird. I called the number. A woman answered, breathless and amused. You're early. I'm not who you think, I said, every syllable steady because rage, in me, always freezes before it burns. Who is this? Silence, then the careful click of a smile. Wrong number. She hung up. That night Ethan came home glowing with the kind of endorphin sheen you get from sprints or secrets. He kissed me like a man in a commercial and opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving. What's the occasion? I asked. Just us, he said, and for a split second his eyes flicked to the porch, to the planter, to the invisible evidence I'd already moved into my sock drawer like a mouse with a breadcrumb. He looked back and raised his glass. To 9 years of choosing each other. I clinked, smiled, swallowed. It tasted like a toast and a dare. 2 days later, Margaret called with her favorite opening volley. Are you sitting? Without waiting, she barreled on. Family Christmas will be grand this year. Black tie. Do wear something classic. Ethan shines in a proper setting. It's July, Margaret. One must prepare, she said, and then, like an afterthought sharpened into a spear. Also, your work schedule. You'll be available, yes? No last-minute clients. I stared at the phone. You can count on me, I said, and meant something else entirely. That night, I lay awake, listening to Ethan shower at 1 a.m., humming a song I didn't recognize. My mind went inventory cold. The napkin, the Uber, the silk tag, the hummingbird video that clinked like ice in a glass. If there was a puzzle, the border pieces were down. I didn't confront him. I changed my phone plan to include itemized logs. I ordered a new planner with pockets. And I wrote a single sentence on the first page, underlined twice. Pay attention. It was a Thursday morning when the illusion finally shattered. Ethan had left his phone on the kitchen counter, face down, charging beside his protein shake. He was in the shower, humming the same tune he'd been humming for weeks, the one that sounded too buoyant, too unfamiliar. I wasn't the kind of wife who snooped. I used to think trust meant leaving things untouched. But trust also used to mean Ethan didn't flinch when I reached for his phone to check the time. And yet, that morning, something inside me, call it intuition, call it a gut scream, told me to flip it over. The screen lit up instantly. A message preview. Chloe, last night was perfect. Your mother says she can't wait to see us together again. She's such a sweetheart for helping us find each other. The words blurred before I even finished reading. Your mother, helping us find each other. My pulse pounded so loudly I thought I'd drop the phone. I scrolled up, fingers trembling. Dozens of messages, flirty emojis, inside jokes, dinner plans. Mentions of Margaret. Mentions of the family dinner. Mentions of me, in the past tense. Ethan, softs out late again, don't worry. Chloe, good. I hate sneaking around. Your mom says you deserve someone who understands you. Ethan, she's right. You get me, Chloe. It felt like watching my own life narrated by strangers. The shower turned off. I panicked, locked the phone, and placed it exactly where it had been, down to the angle of the charging cord. I grabbed my keys, muttered something about errands, and left before he came out. I parked 3 blocks away, shaking. My heart kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe it was a joke, maybe Chloe was a client. But your mother says she can't wait to see us together again didn't sound like business. It sounded like betrayal sanctioned by blood. Margaret. That night. I couldn't even look at Ethan without picturing her smug little smile at brunches, those delicate digs about women who don't quite fit the Carter mold. I'd laughed them off for years. She'd been auditioning replacements all along. I needed proof. I couldn't just accuse him, not when Margaret would twist the story into hysteria. So I called Grace, my best friend since college, the one person who always saw through me. Grace, I whispered, pacing the kitchen. He's cheating. And his mother knows. There was a pause. Okay. Deep breath. How sure are you? I read the messages. Then we're not guessing, she said firmly. We're planning. By Friday morning, I'd found the number of a private investigator, a woman named Valerie Torres, ex-police, with a reputation for quiet efficiency. We met in a cafe 2 towns over. She had kind eyes, no judgment. I've done a lot of these, she said, flipping open a notepad. You want confirmation or confrontation? Both, I said, but in that order. She smiled faintly. Smart. Give me a week. A week felt like a century. Ethan was extra affectionate that weekend, cooking dinner, offering back rubs, even planning a getaway soon. Just us. It would have melted me once. Now, every touch felt like a performance. Monday night, Margaret called again. Oh, Sophie, I do hope you'll wear your hair up for Christmas. Chloe has such lovely bone structure. I think the style will flatter both of you. It took me a full 5 seconds to find my voice. Chloe. Oh, she laughed lightly, like she'd said too much. A friend of the family. You'll meet her soon. I can't wait, I said sweetly, and meant the opposite with every atom of my being. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. My face looked calm, but inside I was molten. Ethan wasn't just unfaithful. He was orchestrated. His mother had introduced the woman, groomed the replacement, built my betrayal brick by brick. I opened my planner, flipped past the first page where I'd written pay attention, and added a new line beneath it. Don't warn them. Watch them burn. A week later, Valerie called. Mrs. Carter, she said quietly. You were right. I have photos. And just like that, the illusion of my perfect marriage was gone, replaced by something colder, clearer, and far more dangerous. Purpose. When Valerie called, her voice was as steady as a surgeon's. I have what you asked for. Do you want to meet in person? Yes, I said. Somewhere quiet. We met at a diner halfway between her office and my house. One of those old places with sticky menus and the smell of burnt coffee that never leaves. Valerie slid into the booth across from me, set down a manila envelope, and looked me in the eyes. Before you open it, she said, I need to warn you. It's worse when the places are familiar. I didn't understand what she meant until I saw the first photo. Ethan and a woman, Chloe, I assumed, sitting close at Rose's Trattoria, the little Italian restaurant where he'd once reserved the whole back corner to propose to me. Same table, same wine, same candlelit corner. Another photo, the park where we used to walk our dog, Luna, before she passed. Ethan was there, holding Chloe's hand, pointing at the pond like he was sharing some private memory. The final one made my stomach twist, the gym where we had shared a couple's membership. He was spotting her at the bench press, his hand on her waist, her laugh frozen in the flash. Do you recognize her? Valerie asked. I nodded, my throat tightening. She's beautiful. It slipped out before I could stop myself. Chloe had the kind of effortless elegance Margaret worshipped, glossy hair, designer gym wear, the posture of someone raised to be admired. Valerie hesitated. There's more. She laid down receipts, dinners, hotel bookings under Ethan's business card, even a necklace purchased from a boutique Margaret loved. Then she handed me a photo that made my blood turn electric. Ethan and Chloe stepping out of Margaret's house. She hosted them? I asked, voice hollow. Valerie nodded. From what I gathered, Mrs. Carter's been arranging family dinners on nights. She tells you Ethan's working late. I spoke to a neighbor. They've seen Chloe's car parked out front often. That was when something inside me clicked. A soundless, clean break between disbelief and resolve. I want copies of everything, I said. Valerie slid a USB drive across the table. Already done. I'll email backups tonight. Sophie. She paused, her expression softening. Whatever you do next, don't let them see you coming. That night, I sat in the living room with a glass of wine and a folder full of proof. Ethan came home late again, smelling of cologne and guilt. He kissed my hair and said, Rough day? You have no idea, I murmured. He laughed, oblivious. Same here. My mom's been on me about Christmas plans again. She wants a big show this year. Everyone dressed up, family photos, the works. Oh, I said lightly, swirling my glass. Will Chloe be there too? He froze for half a second, just a flicker, then recovered with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Who? Never mind, I said, standing. You should shower. You smell like cheap wine. He frowned, confused, maybe even a little scared. I walked past him, heart pounding, and locked myself in the bedroom. When I turned on my laptop, Valerie's email had arrived. Subject, proof of infidelity, Carter case. It felt like a headline to my own private tragedy. The next morning, I called my lawyer, the one who'd helped with the prenuptial agreement years ago. She reminded me that the house was in my name alone, that my finances were separate, that the prenup protected my assets in the event of infidelity. For the first time since discovering the affair, I felt something that wasn't grief. It was control. That weekend, I began my quiet preparation. Changed my passwords. Backed up photos. Checked the safe. Contacted my old therapist. I even bought a small journal, not for mourning, but for strategy. Still, the hardest part was pretending. Ethan kept up his act, planning date nights he never followed through on, texting under the table, telling me he loved me like it was a script he couldn't stop performing. One evening, I caught him staring at his reflection in the mirror, adjusting his tie. Do I look sharp? He asked. You look like someone trying to impress the wrong person, I said, watching his eyes flicker again. He laughed nervously. You're in a mood tonight. Maybe I was. But under that calm exterior, I was already building my own scene. The one where every lie he'd told would come crashing down in front of the people who mattered most to him. When Margaret called that night to confirm Christmas dinner, her tone was honeyed but smug. Do her something classic, Sophie. It'll be quite a memorable evening. She had no idea how right she was. The morning after I got the full dossier from Valerie, something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage anymore. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity, the kind of cold, precise calm that comes when the storm has already passed inside you. I woke before Ethan, made coffee, and looked around the house that was entirely mine. My name on the deed, my money keeping the lights on. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same independence Margaret had always sneered at was now my lifeline. I went to my office, shut the door, and started making lists. Practical things first. Update will, contact accountant, separate shared accounts, freeze credit cards. Then, the emotional logistics. Who to tell, when to tell them, how to make sure I didn't dissolve into tears when I did. By the time Ethan stumbled out in his gym clothes, yawning, I had a spreadsheet titled Exit Strategy. Up early, he asked, kissing my cheek. Couldn't sleep, I said. Too much on my mind. He smiled, oblivious. You work too hard. Oh, I'm just getting started. He left for training, and as soon as the garage door shut, I called Valerie. Quick question, I said. You mentioned they've been meeting at Margaret's? Yes, she replied. I also overheard something interesting when I was parked outside her place. She was talking to Chloe on speakerphone about hosting family dinners while you were away on business. My blood ran cold. She told her I travel for work. That's what it sounded like. I laughed. One of those bitter, disbelieving laughs that feel like they come from somewhere deeper than your chest. Unbelievable. She's literally rewriting my life, so I don't exist in it. Valerie hesitated. You know, most people fall apart at this stage. I will, I said. After Christmas. That week, I gathered quiet reinforcements. I met with my lawyer again, discreetly. She confirmed that the prenup would hold strong, especially with photographic evidence. If anything, she said, this could ruin him financially. I almost pitied him. Almost. By Thursday, I decided I wouldn't confront either of them yet. No screaming match. No thrown wine glass. No tears. If Margaret wanted a performance, she'd get one, but it would be my script, my stage, my finale. Then, just as I started to feel steady, the universe threw in one last cruel twist. Ethan's mother invited Chloe to dinner at our house. Oh, darling, Margaret had said over the phone, voice dripping with false sweetness. I thought you wouldn't mind. Poor Chloe's been feeling lonely. She's been helping your husband with a few charity projects. I just adore her energy. Of course, I said evenly. The more, the merrier. When I hung up, I screamed, silently, into a pillow, then texted Grace. Me, Margaret's bringing the mistress to dinner. Grace, what? Are you kidding me? Me, not even a little. Grace, you want me to accidentally crash it? Me, tempting. But no, I'm collecting data. Dinner was surreal. Chloe showed up in a white silk blouse and diamond studs, all polite smiles and delicate laughter. Ethan was visibly nervous, though he kept trying to play the part of the perfect husband. Margaret, of course, was in her element, pouring wine, arranging seats, beaming at Chloe like she'd birthed her. Sophie, she said sweetly, Chloe's been such a help to Ethan lately. You know, with his presentations, his training schedule, his new diet. Oh, I'm sure she's very hands-on. I replied with a smile that could slice glass. Chloe flushed, probably not realizing I knew everything. Ethan shot me a warning look, one I pretended not to see. The whole evening was a study in restraint. I played my role flawlessly, laughing in the right places, complimenting Chloe's earrings, thanking Margaret for the wine. By dessert, Margaret was glowing like she'd already won. But later, as she left, she leaned close and whispered, Ethan deserves someone who sees his potential, Sophie, not someone who hides from it. I just smiled. You're absolutely right. And I can't wait for everyone to see exactly what he's capable of. Her expression faltered for half a second before she recovered. Merry Christmas, dear. Merry Christmas, I echoed, my tone light, almost cheerful. After they left, Ethan turned to me, guilt flickering in his eyes. Mom can be intense. Don't take her too seriously. Oh, I don't, I said, walking past him toward the stairs. In fact, I'm starting to take her just seriously enough. In bed that night, while he slept soundly beside me, I opened my planner again and drew a small snowflake next to December 25th. Under it, I wrote, Stage set. Curtain rises. Margaret Carter loved two things above all else, control and presentation, which made her annual Christmas dinner the social equivalent of a royal coronation. Every year, she turned her sprawling estate into a winter spectacle, crystal chandeliers dripping with garlands, imported poinsettias, a string quartet by the staircase. And every year, she reminded me, subtly but persistently, that I'd never quite belonged among them. This year, however, she was giddy. effusive, unusually kind, which, in Margaret speak, was more alarming than any insult. "Oh, Sophie, you simply must come," she said over the phone, her voice all sugared charm. "It wouldn't be Christmas without you. Everyone will be there, family, friends, business partners. Even Chloe, poor thing, has nowhere else to go this season. We're inviting her out of charity, of course." There it was, the bait, the smug, glimmering hook. For a moment, I almost laughed. I could hear her self-satisfaction through the line, imagining how she'd seat me across from Ethan's mistress, introduce her as some bright new friend, and bask in my quiet humiliation. "Of course, Margaret," I said softly. "I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it." "Oh, how wonderful," she gushed. "Black tie, of course. You always try your best with fashion, dear. I'm sure you'll find something lovely. I'll make sure it's memorable." When I hung up, I sat very still, letting the silence settle. It wasn't shock anymore, it was strategy. I had the photos, the receipts, the messages, and the confirmation that Margaret had orchestrated the entire betrayal. And now, she was handing me the perfect audience. Grace came over that evening, bringing wine and her trademark bluntness. "She's inviting her?" Grace nearly shouted. "Sophie, that's psychotic." "Oh, I know," I said, flipping open my laptop. "But it's also poetic." Grace frowned. "You're not thinking of going, are you?" "Of course I am," I said, smiling. "And I'm bringing a gift." She stared at me. "What kind of gift?" "The truth." The next 2 weeks were quiet but electric. Ethan seemed jittery, distracted. He tried harder than ever, bringing flowers, planning dinners, talking about new beginnings. I played along, all calm smiles and gentle nods, tucking away every word for later. Then one night, while he was asleep, I saw his phone light up again. A new message from Chloe. "Chloe, your mom's so sweet. I can't believe she's letting me come to dinner. Are you sure Sophie won't mind?" And Ethan's reply, "She'll handle it. She always does." That one line hit harder than all the photos combined. She'll handle it. That was what I'd been to him. The handler, the fixer, the one who absorbed the mess and kept the peace. Not this time. The night before Christmas Eve, I reviewed everything with Valerie. She'd organized all the evidence neatly in a single folder labeled Carter Family Affairs. Receipts, time-stamped photos, phone logs, everything. "You're sure you want to do this publicly?" she asked. "Yes," I said. She made it public first. "Then go and calm. When people lose their temper, they lose control of the story." I smiled. "Oh, I'll be calm. Terrifyingly calm." Christmas Day arrived draped in perfection, snow glittering on the driveway, the smell of cinnamon and expensive champagne drifting through Margaret's mansion. Guests in tuxedos and gowns floated around the foyer like ornaments brought to life. Margaret greeted us at the door in a floor-length emerald gown and enough diamonds to light the room. "Sophie," she exclaimed, "how stunning. I was afraid you'd feel underdressed, but you've outdone yourself." Her eyes flickered over my deep red velvet dress. Classic, tailored, regal. I smiled. "Merry Christmas, Margaret." Then I saw her, Chloe, standing near the fireplace, holding a glass of champagne, chatting with Ethan's cousin like she'd been part of the family for years. She turned as we entered, her expression faltering slightly when she saw me. Maybe guilt, maybe fear. Ethan stiffened beside me, his jaw tightening. "Mom didn't tell me she invited her." "Didn't she?" I said, tilting my head. How unlike her. He swallowed hard. "Sophie, maybe we should." "No," I interrupted gently, slipping my arm through his. "Let's not make a scene. It's Christmas." Dinner was everything Margaret dreamed of: silver cutlery, crystal glasses, laughter bubbling under tension. She sat at the head of the table, practically glowing. Chloe was 2 seats away from Ethan, close enough to touch, far enough to pretend not to. And me? I smiled. I chatted. I toasted. Because I knew the best revenge isn't in the chaos. It's in the composure before the explosion. And when Margaret lifted her glass halfway through dinner and said, "You know, I think Chloe will be perfect for Ethan once the divorce is finalized," I smiled even wider. The room froze. The next move would be mine. The moment Margaret uttered the word divorce, the clinking of silverware stopped. Every fork froze midair. I swear, even the string quartet out in the foyer went quiet, like the air itself was holding its breath. Ethan choked on his wine. "Mother, what are you talking about?" He stammered, color draining from his face. Margaret gave a tinkling laugh. Oh, darling, it's no secret things have been strained. Her gaze swept across the table like a queen surveying her court. We all see it. But perhaps it's time you moved on, with someone who truly matches your world. She turned her glittering eyes toward Chloe, who looked as if she wanted to sink under the table. Margaret, I said sweetly, you're right about one thing. This dinner is memorable. The guests shifted uncomfortably. Richard Carter, the family patriarch, cleared his throat, ready to diffuse whatever storm was brewing. Ethan reached for my hand under the table, whispering, "Soft, let's just." I smiled at him and withdrew my hand. No, Ethan. Let's not stop her. I'd hate to interrupt your mother's announcement. Margaret smirked. Well, dear, I'm simply being practical. A woman like Chloe, with her background, her poise, her ability to schedule secret dinners with her lover's mother? I interjected, voice silk smooth. Yes, very poised. Chloe's face went crimson. Gasps rippled down the table. Margaret blinked. Excuse me. I turned slightly in my chair, my tone calm, conversational. I said, Chloe must have excellent manners. You know, for someone invited to dinner at my husband's mother's house while I was supposedly away on business. Ethan's eyes widened. Sophie. Oh, don't worry, love. I've been home the whole time. I stood slowly, letting the napkin fall to the floor. In fact, I've had quite a bit of free time lately. Enough to hire a private investigator. A murmur spread through the room like fire catching silk. Chloe's hand trembled. Ethan rose halfway from his seat, face pale. Sophie, please. Let's talk. I'm talking, I said coolly, pulling a small envelope from my clutch. You see, Margaret, I came tonight because you invited me to a show. But you forgot. I brought the script. I laid the photos on the table one by one. Ethan and Chloe at Rose's, the park, the gym, Margaret's front porch. Gasps. Someone dropped a fork. Here's your son, I said, rehearsing his new beginnings. Here's Chloe, the understudy. And here you are, Margaret, the director, producing the tragedy. Margaret's jaw worked soundlessly. You've invaded our privacy. Oh, darling, I only documented yours, I replied. My own was destroyed months ago. Richard slammed his glass down. Enough. What is this nonsense? I turned to him, voice softening. Ask your wife, Richard. She's been busy matchmaking. She even told Chloe I was away on business. Richard's face hardened, the anger slow but unmistakable. Margaret, is that true? Margaret's composure cracked. I was protecting our son, she snapped. Sophie was never one of us. No, I said evenly. I never was. And thank God for that. Chloe pushed her chair back abruptly. Wait, she said, voice trembling. Margaret, you told me Ethan was separated. You said Sophie knew. The silence that followed was thick and humiliating, but not for me. For them. I looked at Ethan, who could barely meet my eyes. I'll be filing for divorce first thing tomorrow, I said quietly. The house is in my name. The prenup protects my assets. And I have every bit of this evidence ready to forward to your firm's partners, just in case anyone wants to discuss ethics. Then I smiled, lifted my glass, and finished softly. To new beginnings, everyone. I set it down, turned, and walked out, past the stunned guests, past Margaret's frozen expression, past Chloe's tears, feeling lighter with every step. Behind me, Richard's voice roared through the hall. Margaret, what the hell have you done? But I didn't look back. The snow outside glowed gold under the lamplight as I stepped into the night. No longer the woman they planned to humiliate, but the one who ended their performance entirely. By the next morning, the story had already spread through every corner of the Carter circle. No one knew the full details, but the gossip was alive. Ethan's affair exposed at dinner, Margaret humiliated, Sophie walked out smiling. I didn't have to lift a finger. The truth traveled on its own. I woke up in my own bed, my house, sunlight streaming through the curtains. For the first time in months, I felt weightless. No guilt, no second-guessing, just peace. Ethan showed up around noon, still in last night's suit, looking like a man who'd aged a decade. His voice was raw when he spoke. Soft, please. Can we talk? I opened the door only halfway. You've had months to talk, Ethan. You just chose someone else to listen. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes red. It wasn't supposed to, I never wanted. To get caught. I finished for him. Or to lose your backup plan. He winced. You don't understand. Mom, I laughed softly. Oh, I understand exactly. She wanted to replace me, and you were too weak to stop her. He looked down, voice cracking. You were right about everything. I let her run my life. I let her destroy us. Ethan, I said quietly, you destroyed yourself. I closed the door gently, not slammed, not shouted, just final. Over the following weeks, the world rearranged itself. My lawyer filed the divorce papers. Ethan didn't contest a thing. Richard called once, apologizing profusely for Margaret's behavior and assuring me she was taking a sabbatical from public life. Translation: she'd been exiled to their vacation home in Vermont. Chloe reached out, too. Her message was hesitant, guilty. I'm sorry. I didn't know the full story. Margaret lied to me. And Ethan, he made promises he couldn't keep. I replied simply, you owe me no apology. We were both manipulated, just differently. And that was the strange beauty of it. Everyone who had tried to make me small was shrinking, while I was quietly expanding. My house, my business, my peace, all still mine. I didn't need revenge anymore. I already had something better, closure. The weeks that followed felt surreal. The Carters, once untouchable, were suddenly gossip fodder, whispered about at charity galas, pitted at the club. Ethan moved into a rented apartment downtown. Margaret stopped showing her face entirely. One afternoon, Chloe called. Her voice was shaky but honest. Sophie, I didn't know. Margaret told me you were already separated. She said you were cold, selfish. I sighed. She told me I wasn't good enough for her son. Seems we both got her fairy tales. Chloe paused. For what it's worth, I left him. I can't build anything on that kind of lie. I believed her. Good, I said gently. Maybe that's the first honest thing either of you has done. A few days later, Richard Carter called too. His tone was solemn. You handled yourself with grace, Sophie. More than my wife or son deserved. I didn't do it for grace, I said. I did it for peace. When I hung up, I realized how quiet my life had become and how much I loved it. No secrets, no lies, just me, rebuilding. The divorce finalized smoothly. Ethan's reputation took the hit, not mine. And while Margaret tried to spin the story, no one listened anymore. The queen had lost her crown, and I had walked away from her kingdom with my dignity intact. 3 months after the divorce papers were signed, Ethan showed up at my office unannounced. He looked thinner, older, the perfect picture of regret. I should have felt satisfaction, but mostly I just felt distance. Sophie, he said softly, standing by the door like a stranger. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I set my pen down. For cheating? For lying? Or for letting your mother choreograph your life like a puppet show? He flinched, then nodded. All of it. I was weak. I kept trying to please everyone. My mother, the firm, everyone but you. You didn't have to please me, Ethan, I said. You just had to be honest. He looked around the office, the framed photos of my staged homes, the awards on the wall. You've built something incredible, he murmured. You always did. I was too blind to see it. There was sincerity in his voice, the kind that only comes when everything else has already burned down. I hope you find happiness, I told him. But don't come looking for forgiveness. I gave that to myself. He nodded slowly. You deserve better. I know. He smiled faintly, then turned to leave. For a moment, I saw the man I'd once loved. Not the liar, not Margaret's puppet. Just Ethan, lost and trying to make sense of his own ruins. But I didn't reach out. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. For the first time, my heart didn't ache when I thought of him. It was just quiet. The peace I'd fought for had finally settled in. And in that silence, I realized something profound. Closure isn't a moment, it's a choice. I had chosen mine the night I walked away. A year later, my life barely resembled what it once was. The house felt lighter, warmer, mine in every way. My business was thriving, my laughter no longer forced. And then came Daniel Morgan. Kind, grounded, the sort of man who asked, "How are you?" and actually listened. We met at an open house I was staging. He bought the property. I didn't realize he'd also bought my attention. Our relationship grew slowly, built on calm, not chaos. One evening, we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset when he said, "You've been through hell, haven't you?" I smiled. Maybe, but I came out clean. He took my hand. Then you didn't lose, you learned. And he was right. I'd learned that real strength isn't in revenge or control. It's in walking away with dignity. When Christmas came around again, I lit the fireplace, poured myself a glass of wine, and raised it quietly to the memory of that disastrous dinner. My turning point. The best revenge, I realized, isn't exposing someone else's weakness. It's finding your own peace and never giving it back.